left off the other day talking about depth perception, didn't we? And I did that little telescope thing with you. Okay? The other examples of not only issues with depth perception, but with figure ground. Are you familiar with Escher's prints and sketches that he's done? Okay? What he's used is perceptual illusions. He's used figure ground, linear perspective, okay, to get you to be absolutely confused when you look at this stuff. Okay? I've always liked this stuff. Very, very detailed. A lot of it has to do with foreground, background, and shading. Like, so which is he going up or is he going down? Has that person come down or is that up? That's over here. Is this up? If you start out here, can you go all the way up? Okay, or can't you? But how come he's coming down? The stairs are this way. Okay, there are all these kind of impossible figures that are there based on one, perception, what you already know, and then he switches things around with colorations that are there. Here's another example. It's not an Escher, but somebody else did this one. So again, what happens is your brain is trying to sort through this and develop some type of meaning from this. Right? You're trying to create some type of meaning. So there's what? Two different types of elements in this, and some people see it different ways. Some people see it as angels and devils. Other people see it as bats, different colored bats that are on there. So as soon as I use those words, all of a sudden you then perceive it that way. Okay? Isn't that interesting how you can tell people some different things? Some of you still don't see it, right? Which is okay. Okay? Some of you will get what's called an aha experience as I go through this. I'll show you. The whites could be, some people may consider these angels. So this is the head. This is going to be a wing, the skirt, the feet that are together, other part of the skirt, a wing. All right, so some of you just got, oh, I got it now. Some people would say this darker part would be a devil, an evil creature. This would be the evil creature's ears. This is highly pointed eyes, flared up nose, big teeth that are there. And this is his wings, like a bat, right? Anything else? So again, it's all based on figure grounds that are there as you switch back and forth to these. All right. So what we just covered in that section about perception is really about what the brain does to us. The biggest part of this is recognizing that whether you like it or not, your brain is trying to make the world constant and consistent. And even though you want to change things, sometimes it's very difficult to change your perception based on the brain, what the brain is doing. This part here now would be part of that would be the bio part of biopsychosocial. So this part here is the psychological part about learning. How are you conditioned to develop your various perceptions? So the first one is based on perceptual habits, right? Your habits and what you get used to doing, okay, will be an emphasis on how you perceive the world, whatever you have learned. So if you were taught about those people, that those people are this way, and you got that drilled in your head over and over again, when you meet those people, you're automatically going to perceive them in that way. Right? Anything that you've learned over and over and over again will be the basis of your perception. Okay, so read this for me.
I love Paris in the spring.
All right, read that for me.
I love Paris in the spring.
All right, read that for me.
I love Paris in the spring.
Read that for me.
I love Paris in the spring.
Read that for me.
I love Paris in the spring.
No one's reading it right yet. Read that for me.
I love Paris in the spring.
Thank you. Did you hear what she said? I love Paris in the springtime. So, I know it's silly, okay? But what we're doing here, how many times have you heard that phrase? Right? You heard it before, and I don't think you all read like, I love. What you do now, because you've learned it, it's become a habit, you scan things, right? You scan things very, very quickly. So you miss the it's in there, and the way it was set up as well. But that also has to do with the way people read today. A lot of people don't read, people scan. So this is my little lecture too now on studying your textbook instead of scanning it. because we're used to what? Text messages and Twitter accounts and everything else, and things just, you scan things real quickly. Like sometimes I get papers or reactions to some of you. Some of you write like you're writing a Twitter account or something like that. You know, it's this you instead of Y-O-U, it's you, and you give me all these abbreviations and stuff, and in there, and it's kind of like, well, no, that's not the proper way of reading. But the problem sometimes is that we live in a society that's so busy, we have a tendency to scan things. So when you scan something like this, you're going to miss the meaning. You're absolutely going to miss the meaning of stuff. All right? And if you're going to talk with me and be on your phone and talk to somebody, again, that's multitasking. You're going to have a difficulty doing that. Okay? So part of perception is making sure that what you concentrate and really listen to what people are saying to you, or really watch what's going on. Otherwise, you're not going to be very objective about what's going on. And your decision is going to be based on old habits and old ways of thinking about people. Stereotypes, once again. All right, let's go back. So your perceptions are based on your habits, what you've learned. 2, perceptions are based on what's called adaptation levels, what you get used to. Your perceptions are based on what you adapt to or what you get used to. Has anyone ever said to you, oh, well, we just have a different frame of reference, right? A different frame of reference. Well, another term that means adaptation level is a frame of reference. You have a different frame of reference. Now, on Monday, we didn't have class in here on Monday, but my Monday class came in here, and people had sweatshirts on and long pants on. You know, it was a bone-chilling, probably 68 degrees on that day. But that was so different than the other days when was up in the upper 90s, that's there. So then you can hear people say, God, it's so cold. 68 degrees, it's not cold. It's my frame of reference. It's there. So sometime in December, we may have one of those blue northers that come blowing through here and drop it down to a really cold 42 degrees, okay? And you're out there, you got your heavy jacket on, you got your skull cap on, you got your gloves on, because, ooh, it's cold. But a good friend of yours just is flying in that day from Alaska, okay? And they come in where it was 28 below zero that morning, and they come outside, and you get your jacket on, your cap, and they come on, in a T-shirt and stuff, because they're trailing their jacket along with them. They walk outside, and they go, whoa, man, shorts weather. Yeah, I'm going to put my shorts on. You're going, oh, what are you, crazy? It's so cold. It's based on what? Your frame of reference, what you get used to. So our perceptions are based that as well. The same thing comes to mind when you talk about the families you grew up in. What did you get used to? Okay? Some of you are used to yelling and screaming and yelling and screaming and yelling and screaming. So you get used to that. That's your frame of reference. So you go out with your friends, and what do you do to make things normal? You provoke fights and get it going, because that's what normal is for you. That's your frame of reference. Or you may go out with somebody and spend the afternoon with their family, and it's a real calm, relaxed family. Nobody argues or anything. And you're going, God, what a dull family. Okay, you guys are pretty dull. Nothing going on here. I'm used to fights and arguments, because that's what? Your frame of reference. Or even what you got used to, your perceptual habits. Which one's right, which one's wrong. Right? It's kind of your frame of reference. All this is based on what? Illusions. Anybody a magician here? Anybody do magician's tricks? No? Well, that's what magicians do, don't they? They use illusions. What are illusions? They're misleading perceptions that distort or misjudge a stimulus. The stimulus really exists, but what happens is that there's an illusion that goes along with it, and they fooled you. Magicians are highly schooled in perceptions and what people are really looking for. What are their perceptual habits? What have they gotten used to? Adaptation levels. And then they use that against you to make you see things that may not be there, or to have items disappear. Like David Copperfield, did that whole thing once where he had the whole Statue of Liberty disappear before like tens of thousands of people who was standing in the waterfront area in New York City. How did he do that? I don't know how he did that. If I knew how he did that, I'd be making millions of dollars, like he does. But it's all based on what? Illusions, Something that's there, but it's really not real. That's an illusion, right? The illusion is of depth, that you can be walking down a two-dimensional picture and perceive depth that's there. Those of you in art know that as what linear perspective, okay? How you're able to do that. It's really an illusion. Now you and I sit there and go, no, that's columns, and you go off into the distance, but it's two-dimensional. It really can't be. But it's an illusion that's there. Now, see what's happening with your brain? Your brain right now is going, yeah, but still, it's a perception that's there. It's real. Well, that's what they want you to do, is to believe the illusions. Did you ever see a mirage on the road, and you're driving along, and there's this big pond out in front of the road that's there? Well, that's an illusion, right? It's not really there. All right, how else what are the elements that affect attention and perception? All right, if you don't attend to something, then you're not going to perceive it. If you don't attend to something, then you're not going to perceive it. And there's a term psychologists use called inattentional blindness, which means if you're not going to be attending, you're going to be blind to whatever that information is coming to your brain. Your brain really doesn't multitask. Your brain really doesn't multitask. You think you can drive and talk on the phone at the same time, which you can, but are you a worse driver or a better driver? And all of the research, this is really solid research, says you're not attending to your driving as well as you can when you're not talking on your phone. I know a lot of you have trained yourself that you can do that, okay? But if you do this and you're driving, or even if you're using your Bluetooth, okay, your brain is usually a few seconds behind in terms of your reaction time, okay? So all the research that shows that, okay? And if you're going to text, okay, at the same time, you can't do that either. Those of you who sit here and try to listen in class and do this. I don't know if you can see me, because I see you doing this sometimes. You're texting, looking up. Okay? Now, you may be real good at texting, okay, but still, there's a delay that's there. You're not fully attending to what's going on. It's called inattentional blindness. Inattentional blindness. What else affects? You still with me? I bet you if I put that one up about focusing, a lot of you wouldn't be focusing right now. So come on back. Perceptual expectancies. What you expect to see, what you expect to perceive, is what you will perceive, is what you will see. It's probably not grammatically correct, right? But I made my point. What you expect to see is what you will see. What you expect to perceive is what you will perceive. If you're driving along to Austin this weekend, maybe you're going to Austin this weekend, so you're zipping along in Austin, you get out of work at 7 o'clock, you're racing down to Austin, because you want to have a good time on 6th Street, but you haven't eaten anything, okay? And you're looking, you're going, usually there are signs on the interstate that say things like fuel ahead, food ahead, but you're really, really hungry. So you're zipping along and you see a sign, you go, whoa, all right, food ahead. And you pull off. And you get to this gas station, and you were thinking, food ahead. All right, food ahead. That means it's going to be McDonald's or Subway or something like that. And you go into this store, and all they have is those hot dogs that have been twirling around there for probably 3 years. Okay, and that's it. Okay, and you go to your friend, that sign said food ahead. He said, no, it didn't. I was trying to tell you that. It said fuel ahead. Okay, what happened? You just misperceived because you wanted to see food. You buy that brand new car. It's really a unique car. You've never seen this car before on the road. You pull out of the local dealership. You're on the road. Before you know it, that car you see about 5 times. What the hell happened here? What's happening is because expectancies. You see it, and all of a sudden everybody else. I never realized how many pregnant women there were in the world, okay, until my wife was pregnant. And then all of a sudden, it was like, God, everybody must have been having sex 9 months ago. And all these pregnant women that are out there. All of a sudden, they're all over. Why? Because now I'm looking for it. What? I'm expecting it. It's there. That's never happened to you? Sure. How about this one? The last 6 or 7 relationships you've been in broke up. And the reason why they broke up is because the person you were going out with cheated on you. I mean, not just cheated on you. I mean, you were living with this person. You came home, opened the door, there they were on the floor. Okay? I mean, this is real painful stuff over and over and over again. All right? So what is your expectancy now? Let's say this was done to a woman. What's your expectancy now of about men? They're going to cheat on you, right? But you know, after you vowed, I'll never go out again with anybody, and then you finally started going out with this guy, a really nice guy, he's from a nice family, things are going really well with him, things are great, you're slowly beginning to trust him, and after he walked you over here to this class, and he said, look, I'll meet you outside of class, let's go to brunch or something, I want to see you, I want to go to brunch with you. And she says, oh, okay, and he says, I'll meet you out here. And you go, okay, great. So end of class, all during class, you're going, God, I really like this guy. You know, I guess he's not like other guys who've cheated. I really think he may be the one. Yeah, and you're not listening to me because you're thinking about him. For the whole class, you walk out of class and you go over there and you look at him and there's this really attractive woman right on his arm, okay, looking at him like this with her head tilted going, you can't hear anything, but you just see the nonverbal. And she touches him on the arm like that. And he's like, yeah. And he takes a step closer, and she goes over and gives him a big hug. And he stops, and they pull apart, and you're going, oh, what is this? What is this? What's going on? And you get closer, and now you can hear. And he says to her, hey, you coming over tonight? And she says, yeah. She says, well, good. What time are you going to be over? She says, I don't know, maybe about 8 o'clock. She says, okay, well, we'll wait for dinner for you. Spending the night? She says, oh, yeah, I'm spending the night. She says, great, see you later. Gives another big hug, walks off. You come up to him, and he goes, hey, there you are. I wish. And she says, don't you tell me what you wish and what you don't wish. You pig. You're just like all the rest of them. Get the hell out of my life. Walks away, right? Goes home. And he's trying to text you, going, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Okay? And you're going, you're just like every other man. Every man I've gone out with, you're always cheating. What are you talking about cheating? I saw her. She was all over you. What time is she coming over tonight? She's coming over spending the night. Good for you. Take me to brunch, and then you're going to be with her for the rest of the night. Is that it? And she says, who are you talking about? That woman who was just draped all over you. Oh, he says, you mean my sister. It was a sister, that's all it was. Giving a little hugs. She wasn't giving this type of hugs. She was giving this type of hugs that were there. Right? It was a sisterly hug that was there. But what in her mind, she's expecting this is going to happen to me, so she just sees that happening. Perceives it that way. Think about your relationships sometimes. Now, by the way, sometimes, yeah, you do have to catch people who cheat, but you know, sometimes we just misperceive what's going on based on our expectations, on our habits. It's hard to be objective. It's really hard to be objective when you listen to these studies like this. The boiled frog syndrome also has to do with attention and perceptions. This is not an experiment where psychologists actually boil frogs, okay? This is a thought experiment. Okay? But let me tell you what this is, and then I'll give you the explanation for it. If you took a frog and you dropped him in boiling water, okay, that frog would want to get out of there right away. Like, let me out of here. Okay? However, if you took a frog, okay, and put him in a plate of water, a pot of water, okay, and you put him in there, he'd be kind of flopping around. And if you just turn the heat up just a little bit, he'd be flopping along. Turn the heat up a little bit more, he'd be flopping along. Turn the heat up a little bit more, he'd be flopping along. Turn it up a little bit more, he'd be flopping along. Sooner or later, you can have that water boiling, and that frog will never jump out. He'd just boil. Be over with, done with that frog. The boiled frog syndrome says, when you have slow, gradual changes in your life, you do not perceive them. When there's slow, gradual changes, you do not perceive them. Slow, gradual changes you do not perceive. Most of us, when we put on weight, we don't put on weight 20 pounds in 1 week, right? Then you'd feel that, right, in 1 day. All right, but what winds up happening is that we put on maybe a half a pound a week, 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 half a pound a week. You know, after 20 weeks, I'll put on 10 pounds. That's there. So you change into your summer clothes to your fall clothes, and you're not wearing shorts anymore, and you put on your favorite jeans, and you pull them up to about here. And you go, what happened here? What's going on? Oh, I guess the last time I did laundry, I must have shrunk my jeans. That's what's going on, okay? Because you don't realize what? Slow, gradual change. You started off in this relationship and or this job, and it was an incredible job, an incredible relationship. God, love it, first sight. This is so good being with him or her. Woo, great stuff, great stuff, great stuff. Great job, great job, great job. Great relationship, great relationship. But over the months or even years, that relationship has just gotten slowly bad, slowly bad, slowly bad, slowly worse. And so what happens, a good friend of yours comes into town who you haven't seen in a year or so, okay? And she goes out with you and the boyfriend or the girlfriend, or whoever it is, and all of a sudden they pull you aside and go, you really like this guy? And you say, yeah, he's a great guy. He really treats you really bad. Well, what do you mean? Well, he does this to you all the time. I was talking to him and you tried to say something. Well, whatever. Okay? Didn't you see that? Oh, no, I just stop every once in a while. Yeah, but look at him. He says he's going to go wander over and get us drinks. He's been gone for 20 minutes. He's talking to those other women over there. Oh, he's just a friendly guy. I don't know. He asked you for some money. You gave him $50. You always give him money like that? Well, you know, he doesn't make as much money as I do. Yeah, but he's buying drinks for all those women. I know he's a good guy, though. But you don't really understand him. You know, when we're together, he's really good. Are you sure? No? By the way, don't go home and get divorced. Just because I'm saying this. Because our relationships aren't as good as they were in the beginning. But, you know, we don't realize that slow, gradual change that goes on. All of a sudden, then we wake up and we go, God, what happened here? Slow, gradual change. Do you know that Dallas, Texas has one of the highest allergy rates? Okay, just hard. We have one of the highest air pollution rates. It was never this way. But what's happened slowly and gradually over the years, particularly with air pollution, the things have just kind of changed over years. And we've just gotten kind of used to it. Just kind of gotten used to it. Slow, gradual change. Think about your lives. Okay, are you paying attention? Okay, are you misperceiving what's going on because of the boiled frog syndrome? Slow, gradual changes. What's this? If I wanted to do an experiment with you, okay, what I'm showing you now is how we can misperceive and the effects of expectations and habits. There are two pictures in this one. There is an older woman and a younger woman in this photo. Okay? Now, if I had more time, what I would do is I'd take this side of the class and I'd say, sit in this room right now. This side, go outside. Now, what I want you people to do is I want you to think about an older woman and kind of a goofy clothing that she may be wearing, what older women might wear in the 1930s. I want you to get a good mental image of it and talk about that. What I want you people to do is I want you to talk about a younger woman who's kind of eccentric and the types of clothes she wears, kind of really different, and talk about that. And then when I brought both of you back, this side of the class would see the younger woman, and this side of the class would see the older woman. Can you see both yet? Lots of you can't yet. Okay, some of you can. All right. Sometimes we get locked into our perceptions. Once again, we get locked in. And as soon as we get locked in, it's hard to change it. If someone next to you can see it, you can ask them, and they might be able to show it to you. I'll show it to you. I should have showed you this one after I was talking about habits. To give you a hint, okay, her nose, it's a nose in one picture, but a jaw in another picture. Is that right? Still hard to see, right? And again, the more you see one, it's harder to change your perception. All right, let's do the older woman. Are you ready for the older woman? Now, this is a feather. In the older woman, this is going to be a scarf. This is going to be, I've never seen an older woman with bangs, but this is going to be kind of her bangs. This is going to be one eye. This is going to be like an eyelash or eyebrow or something. Defines the eye. This is another eye over here. Now, the important one is this is her nose, right? This is her mouth, and this is her jaw. In the younger woman, this is her neck. This is going to be like a choker, and her face is more of a profile. So this is going to be her jaw, right? This is going to be her ear. Still hard to see, isn't it? You got it now? It's hard. Again, we get locked into this sometimes, and sometimes it's difficult to change our perceptions. Does that help? Older woman, younger woman? No, not really. I found a newer one. Can you see both in that one? It's basically the same thing. But to me, this was even harder than the other ones. So this is it's more elongated. I can see this. Anybody into Salvador Dali? Now, I mean, he's done all kinds of these things in very surrealistic aspects. This is not his, though. I was going to show you this one. All right. Other illusions that are out there. Now, by the way, if you get dizzy or your stomach gets upset, don't do these, okay? Because some people do, okay? Keep staring at the black dot. After a while, the gray haze around it will appear to shrink. Isn't that weird? Okay, it's an illusion that's there. Your brain is trying to make sense of all this, to figure out, make it meaningful. If you get a headache, don't do these. Ready for another one? Focus on the dot in the center and move your head backwards and forwards. And what happens? Right, this is backward and forwards. This is sorry, backwards and forwards. It's still funny watching you do this, too. Some of you are really into it. It just goes, right? It just kind of flies around. How does all that happen? Now, this one is more difficult. Don't do anything just yet, okay? I'll read you what the directions are. I'll tell you what you need to do. Now, we need to pick out a wall where you're going to look. Either that wall or this wall over here. Okay? Matter of fact, I need to make this a little lighter. All right, you can still see this, though, can't you? All right, so when I ask you to, you're going to look at these walls. But for now, what I want you to do is I want you to stare at these four dots right here. Just stare at the dots, until I ask you to. Then when I ask you to, I want you to look at one of these walls when I ask you to. But for now, keep staring at these dots. Stare at these dots. Just keep staring at the dots. Looking at the dots. Looking at the dots. Looking at the dots. Keep looking at the dots. Just relax and look at the dots. Looking at the dots. Looking at the dots. All right? All right, now when I ask you to, I want you to look at one of these walls and tell me what you see. Go. You blink.
Never going to see the same again.
So are you hallucinating? It's weird, isn't it? You ever do it? I'm not making fun of anybody's religion, okay? In any way. Did I turn the wrong lights on? All right, let's explain this. So, most of you have seen pictures, what you think is Jesus, right? Now, some of you have seen different colors, different ethnic groups of Jesus. Some of you who probably didn't grow up with images of Jesus may have a hard time doing this because it's also based on perceptual habits that are there. And I've done that before in terms of different cultures to show people that. But what's basically this is perceptual habits. You got an image that's there, okay? And what they did with all of this around here, okay, is they made you see a face, right? There's still a face that's there. And then your perceptual habits, which you've gotten used to, puts that together, and all of a sudden you see it, right? You expect it, you see it, it's habitual that's there. Now, again, I'm not making fun of anybody here, but sometimes people see the Virgin Mary and Jesus and donuts and in the sky and in wood and everything else that's there. And what winds up happening, if you really want to believe that, or you expect it, you want to believe it, you'll see it. And then the last chapter we'll be talking about is called social conformity. If other people who are around you want to believe that and see that too, then they see it too. That's there. Just like the other day when we saw the male and female faces that really weren't there, but people started believing that. That's there. So you do see things. What's real and what isn't real? Want another one? How about that one? Now, if you don't like snakes, because it is a snake, isn't it? It's rounded snakes, but it's moving all over the place. This is the little snake tongue there. But it does move. If you're getting dizzy, don't look at that stuff. I always thought this was a weird one. I was just like, ugh. It's three-dimensional, but it's not three-dimensional, right? That one, start blinking, right? Colors fly all over the place. Again, you're misperceiving what's going on, aren't we? I mean, how can that happen? How can this have movement like this? Is that a face or is it a word? Who you call? I gave it away right away because there's a face there and there's also a word, right? The word is liar. So liar in script, L-I-A-R. Or it looks like to me a man with glasses, his nose, his mouth, his chin, his neck. Again, what's real and what isn't real? How about that one? That one's got all kinds of faces in it. In fact, if you look at this, one face comes in, then it goes out again, then it comes back, and then you see others. It also depends what you focus your attention on. It also depends on what you're focusing your attention on. You may see whatever you focus your attention on. Same thing in relationships, same things at anything, in any type of human behavior. Sometimes we focus our attention on a certain behavior, a certain attitude, a certain concept from somebody, and that's how we perceive those people. I mean, there's all kinds of faces. This big one that's here. There's this guy and this guy. Their faces here, 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 here. Horse face. There's a big one over here. Another one up here. Right, another one over here. These guys are pretty creative. They can do all this. All right, if you want a website that has hundreds of these on just to have something to do on the weekends, That's a cool website, and it lists all kinds of different ones. There's ones for words and colors and animals and everything else. Let me just leave it up here for a second. Okay. Again, do you get this so far in terms of perception? What's real and what isn't real? How confused we can be? No wonder why we can't resolve issues between religions and countries, and we have wars about these things. It's so hard to view what somebody else is viewing and understand other people's perspectives that are there. It's incredible that we actually have marriages where people stay together for long periods of time, because you really need to begin to understand someone else, how difficult it is. All right, you get this? Okay. If you didn't get it, send me an email and I'll send you the link. Okay. You with me? Now remember, once again, we're still trying to focus. When you drift away, you want to come back again. I'm going to be doing this the whole semester. I'll say, remember, focus, come on back. Yeah, that's pretty cool. 92% of you, right there. Now, if I asked this a little while ago when I was talking about habits, perceptual habits, I don't think I would have gotten that number. Because you kind of look at people, people drifted off. All right, but you're with me again. Let's talk about this topic. ESP, extra sensory perception. The two topics we talked about in this chapter, sensory, bringing information into your brain, and then how we perceive, ESP. I'm going to explain the four types of ESP that psychologists do research on. And there's research been done with this for many, many years. People are just fascinated with the sixth sense, right? Sometimes they call ESP the sixth sense. Psychologists have studied, as I talk about this, see if you can also engage your brain real quickly and think about maybe if you've ever had an ESP experience, and we'll talk about some of them. All right, ESP experiences. One, clairvoyance. What is clairvoyance? The ability to perceive without barriers. So it's the ability to see, hear, smell, touch, taste without barriers. So someone who's clairvoyant is able to see through that wall and see what's going on. Someone who's clairvoyant can listen right now to what's going on in the S building, or smell what's going on, or wherever else. Someone who's clairvoyant. Now, what I'm giving you is the traditional explanation of clairvoyance. Sometimes you'll hear someone say, oh, I'm a clairvoyant, I can predict the future. Well, that's not correct, all right? Clairvoyant is someone who can see, hear, smell, taste without barriers. Superman was that way, right? Incredible hearing and things like that. Would you like to be clairvoyant? No. Okay. Look like that. Telepathy. I'd like this one. The ability to read minds. Like Spock in Star Trek, a mind melt, right? Would you like this one? I'd like it, but I want to be able to turn it on and turn it off. I want to see if you're lying to me and check it out. Otherwise, it'd be awful loud, right? And two, I don't know if I want to know what you're thinking sometimes. But telepathy, the ability to read minds. Precognition, the ability to predict the future. Precognition. The lotto numbers for Saturday night will be precognition. The ranges will lose. Precognition. And the last one, I'd like the last one, psychokinesis, the ability to move objects with your mind. All right. There I am watching a football game on Sunday, and I go, open the refrigerator up, beer comes flying across the room, right in my hand. Right? The ability to move objects with your mind. clairvoyance, telepathy, precognition, psychokinesis. Okay? Psychologists have studied this. They've done all kinds of research on this. Lots and lots of research on this. So, have you had an ESP experience? How many movies are made about ESP experiences and stuff? It's just incredible. Human beings have always been fascinated about this. What's really going on out in the world? Right? What's going on out there in the world? And we come up with different institutions, I guess, who would explain to us that what we cannot explain, trying to explain the big mysteries. But some people have ESP experiences. Let's see. 59 no, 41 say yes. All right, so who's got one? Who has the experience? Go ahead.
Well, last night I was watching TV, right? And my TV fell forward.
Fell forward.
And obviously I did that.
You did that. Oh, okay.
Or there's a demon in my house.
Well, it was a demon or something. Yeah. What else? Anybody else have anything? So after that one, no one's going to say anything. All right. A lot of people talk about how their mother said to them, don't get in that car. That car's going to have an accident. Okay? And they didn't, and the car had an accident. No, never heard that one before. Their grandmother dies, and the night before she dies, she had a dream that she came to you and said goodbye. What's that?
I have dreams like that.
You had dreams like that. So,
I see some things from whatever action in the future.
things from the future.
Yeah, when I'm in that situation, right away my mind says, oh, I see this.
You see it, right. And then in the future, does it appear?
Yeah.
Okay.
I dreamed that.
You dreamed it, and it appeared. Sure. Anybody ever have deja vu? Okay, been here before, you've experienced it before, you felt it before. This is a joke, or is it going to be real? Okay. All right.
Okay, before my senior year of high school, I was talking with my dad, and we were in the car, and I was like, well, it's kind of weird that I've never had a big injury playing baseball. And then my first game of the season, I took a line drive to my face, and I had to have reconstructive surgery on my face.
Wow.
So that was kind of
Yeah, that's almost a precognition, right?
Yeah.
That's there. What else? All right. Let me see what time it is. I can tell you a good story. 9:51. I still am interested in ESP. Okay? Does it really exist? Okay? Explanation, skeptical observer, we'll talk about this. But I'll tell you my story. I've always been interested in ESP, fascinated with it, read all kinds of books about it. At one time I used to go to psychic fairs. Anybody ever go to psychic fairs where people read your eyes and your hands and do these predictions and stuff? I did a lot of hypnosis. I've done training for police officers and all kinds of different things with hypnosis. Read many books, Carlos Castaneda's books on, I won't go into that, all kinds of different books about this. Really was real interested in this. So one time when I used to live in Farmers Branch quite a few years ago, and one time I was about ready to drive down to see some friends in Houston, but I wanted to let the traffic get out of Dallas go first, so I decided to mow my yard, right? Mundane thing, mow my yard. But you know, the thunderstorms started building up, and it started getting real dark. I was going, oh, I want to mow my lawn because I won't come back to Sunday night. I can't do it this weekend. I got to do it. Then I had this flash of, well, you know what? I've been reading all this stuff about ESP and being able to control things. Maybe I can stop the rain from coming. So I was in my backyard, so no one was watching me. So I got in my backyard and I went, no rain, no rain, no rain. Started thundering, started lightning, and I went, oh, hell, it's not going to work. Mow your lawn. So I started mowing the yard, thunder and lightning, get out of my fence in the back, go through the gate, come in to start mow the front yard, and it starts pouring. I mean, just like, you know, like a May thunderstorm just coming down. Not on my yard. I mowed my side of the yard. It was raining over there. I mowed my front yard, the other side of my yard, had it done. The street was wet. My neighbor's yard was wet. This neighbor's yard was wet. My backyard was wet now, but my yard was not wet. Ho-ho! I was feeling pretty good. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, if I can make it not rain on my property, my yard needs to be rained on now. Still some clouds around. Come on, rain, right here. Didn't rain. It's like, damn, didn't rain. Well, maybe this was just a coincidence or something like that happened. So, I've sat there and I went, well, I can't drive to Houston just yet. I need to do some other things. I had all this energy. You know how excited you get, all this energy? I think I'll rake the leaves underneath all my bushes in front of the house, which I probably have never done in my life when I lived there. So I'm raking these leaves, and I'm thinking, that was weird. Now, my psychologist part was giving an explanation. There's coincidence, how it rains. Sometimes it can rain in one spot, it's a thunderstorm, and not in other spots. Maybe that's what it was. You're being full of yourself. That's what you're really thinking. You think you can control this. You're just getting too egotistical. All these different thoughts. So I'm raking my leaves, and I rake my leaves, and all of a sudden this tennis ball, this dirty, dirty tennis ball, rolls out, rolls right down, and rolls right in front of my feet and stops, and there was one word written on this tennis ball. You know what that word was? Revelation. Oh, yeah. Absolute truth. Still have that tennis ball. It's in my office if you want to come see it. Okay? Still have it. Revelation. What do you think? Think there was something to all this? All right. Explanation. Does ESP exist? Explanation. There is no scientific research that backs up the fact that ESP exists. When you get people who claim they have telepathy, clairvoyance, and anything else in a laboratory setting, they cannot reproduce what they say that they can reproduce. Okay? One of the classic studies that were done were called the Duke studies, or the Zener studies. And in this study, what they usually do is that they give you a set of cards, like 5 cards. There's a diamond on one, like a star on another, a club on another. And then what they do, they shuffle them up, and then say you and I were doing this test. I would pick up the card, look at it, then I'd put it down, and I'd say, what am I thinking of? Okay? Don't tell me. Okay? And if you had telepathy, you were to tell me that, 1 out of 5. So they start doing the statistics out of this. Most people, by the way, can get 1 out of 5. That's basically chance. But then you start seeing people get 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5. And the early Duke studies actually came out and said, you know what? There are some people who can read minds. We do have it researched. They are out there. ESP does exist. And then about 20 years ago, okay, the guy who did this died, okay, and his research associate, who did all the statistics on this stuff and actually ran the studies, felt really guilty. And so what she said was, his famous study that he did that showed ESP exists, I faked it all. She said, I fudged all the studies and everything else. So that was our big study, but it wasn't true. There are still people around who are doing studies, and sometimes they get some of these results. Something that's interesting is that we do find that identical twins seem to score better on tests of ESP, like the one I do. They're identical twins. They usually do very, very well when they're children. Once they get to be around 8 and 9 years old, okay, they're not as good as they used to be when they were younger. 8 or 9 years old, we're reaching what? Concrete operational thinking? A little higher logic, rationality, away from the emotional intuition. We also find that people who can get themselves into a theta state. Next week we'll be talking about altered states of consciousness and different brainwave states. A theta state is just above a delta state and just below an alpha state. It's a heavy, heavy meditative state. like individuals who can put themselves in meditation and stay there for long periods of time seem to do better on tests of ESP than other people can. So what we see is that, I don't know, science tells us, there are really not a lot of solid research studies that have been duplicated. Remember, in science, sometimes we find studies that say, yeah, this does happen, but they're not usually duplicated that way. Most of what we've talked about can be explained through coincidence, okay? Just statistics that are there. Your mother says, don't get in that car, and it has an accident. Well, how many times did your mother say, don't get in the car? Could be 20 times, and then one time it happens, and then we remember that time. I'm not making fun of you, but let's just say you had dreams numerous times about predicting stuff, but then it didn't happen. But you're not going to remember the ones that didn't happen. You'll remember the ones that did come true, and maybe that was only 1 out of 20 times. It could be just a matter of probabilities that are there. Most of the stuff can be explained with basic coincidence, possibilities, probabilities, illusions that go on. However, I am, and there are a lot of other people, okay, who are what we call skeptical observers. I'm skeptical that ESP exists, but you know what? If you study perception enough, you realize that our perception is based on what? Brain, which is based on what? Our experiences, our habits, our conditioning. Maybe we've been conditioned to the fact that things don't happen in ESP, but maybe they do, and we don't realize it because we misperceive. Maybe there are people who are telepathic or have precognition, but we don't want to believe them in any way. Maybe it is that's there. There's a fellow by the name of James Randi, and I just looked him up. He's still alive. Okay. One time we actually had him come here on this campus and make a speech, and he was an ESP expert. And he did everything in that previous slide. He stood, not in this room, but in the theater that was here, and went, let me tell you what's going on right now outside that wall. And he said, all right, somebody in the audience, anybody, get up and run out there and look out, and I'll tell you exactly what's going on. He did it. Exactly what's going on. Okay? Okay? He stood there and went, let me tell you what you're thinking right now. Let me really tell you about your sister. This is what's going on with your sister. I'm making this up. I don't think about your sister. Okay? And then they went, whoa. And he went, well, let me tell you over there. Boom, whoa. And you over there, whoa. And I invited him to come. So when I invited him, like I don't know how many months ahead of time, he was going to predict what the headlines were going to be. And that time Dallas had 2 newspapers. Those of you who are old enough know we had the Dallas Morning News and the Dallas Times Herald. One was a morning paper, one came out in the afternoon. And he said, all right, you have 2 newspapers, I'll predict the 2 headlines in those newspapers. He wrote it down, okay, mailed it to me. I didn't look at it. I took it. I wrapped it up in another envelope, put duct tape around it, took it and put it in a safe until he came, right? Brought it out that day, made sure nobody touched it. And then he said, all right, let's see. Here are the 2 newspapers. Let's see about my predictions. I scissors, unwrapped it all, opened it up. Boom, word for word. Word for word. Then the creepiest thing was, as he stood there, this piece of paper started going and floating around and stuff. And everybody was like, wow. He said, yes, I'm the amazing Randy. I can do all this. And people were sitting just as quiet as you were right now going, whoa. And he said, you know what? They're all magician's tricks. Thank you, good night. And walked out. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, come back. And he came back, and then this is a guy who used to carry around a check, back then was for $100,000, and he said, I'll write this check out to anybody who can prove to me that ESP really exists. He says, because I can teach anybody to do any of what I just did today. So I was like, well, teach me. And he said, no, because you might do what I'm doing, and you just paid me X amount of money to come here and do this. So I said, oh, okay. Okay, but kind of strange, right? That's there. I don't know. Where are you with all this? ESP does not exist. Do you agree, disagree? It doesn't exist, doesn't exist? Now, I may have biased you already with what I just talked about, but maybe you've had some experiences. You know, when you get really close to sometimes you, really close to an individual, sometimes you can really sense who they are and have intuitive powers. If you're a parent, sometimes you really can look at your child, okay, and go, I know what you're thinking, okay? That's creepy, Mom. Well, you've been around them all your life. You know their facial expressions and everything else, okay, that's there. Sometimes it's weird about people who've been married for a long time. I have some friends of mine who've been married for 35, 40 years, and they'll tell you, they'll complete each other's sentences, maybe because they've been around a lot, but every once in a while they say, you know, we wake up sometimes while we're sleeping, we both wake up, we look at each other, and we said, I just had a dream about, and they had exactly the same dreams. That's kind of spooky. That is weird, yeah. Maybe that's all it is weird. Maybe they've had, hundreds of dreams, and they wake up and they weren't the same, but that one was. Maybe there's other stuff going out in the world that we don't know about based on what? Our perception. That's there. Right? We're all fascinated with this, though, because we make so many movies about this stuff. Right? There's so many movies about ESP and extraterrestrial people and supernatural experiences. All right, any questions about that? I finished this chapter, so I was going to give you some review questions. Did you see some of these questions on your test? Yeah, there were some of these questions that went over on your test. Happy to say that most of you got those right. You all got the question right. Where the one I put, this is the answer? Good. All right, we got that one right. Good. All right. Did you see some questions from the quizzes online? Right, there's 1 or 2 on there. By the way, someone was telling me that some of your textbooks that you purchased, the very back of the textbook has sample quizzes for each chapter. Does anybody have one of those books, textbooks? You do? There's some of those books are out there, so you can go over some of those. That might help you. But here's one question. Stereoscopic vision. Were you stretching, or did you have a question? It was just stretching. This is like an auction, you know. If you do this, I react to you. Stereoscopic vision. What was he? You kind of remember I talked about that. What was stereoscopic vision? I said another name for X was stereoscopic vision. What is it? Is it a double-blind effect? Perception of depth caused by the fact that the eyes receive different images? Seeing visions when listening to the stereo? Or changes in perception that can be attributed to prior experience? Which one is it? All right, we got this one? I want to finish these before today is over. All right, everybody select your answer. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 83%. Perception of depth caused by the fact that the eyes receive different images. Retinal disparity with stereoscopic vision, the telescope thing, all right, 3D, superimposed images. All right, write the answer down in case you see this on your test. Those of you got it wrong. All right, you want another one? I didn't cover this. And every once in a while you may see a question on your test that's written in your chapter, right? That's written in the chapter, but I didn't talk about it. The majority of what was on your test I have discussed in class. But every once in a while, I'll throw something like this on. This is an absolute guess on your part. The pain caused by large nerve fibers associated with specific body areas serves as the body's what system? The perceptual system, the warning system, the sleep system, or the out system? Now, I put this on here because sometimes you may not know anything about this answer, but you might get the answer just by looking at the answers themselves and try to figure this out. I'm talking something about pain, right? Large nerve fibers associated with specific body areas serve as body systems. Could it be perception? Well, maybe, because we just talked about the chapter on perception. Could it be a warning system? Well, that has something to do with pain, doesn't it? Could it be the sleep system? Well, what does pain have to do with sleep? Did we even talk about that just yet? No, we haven't. The out system? Well, that's silly. Okay? So as I go through a process of elimination without even knowing what the question is or the content, I might go ahead and eliminate sleep and ouch, and then go for perception and warning, and then try to narrow it down. So narrow it down right now. Make your selection. All right, so 73% of you correct. Right. It would be the warning system that's there. Large nerve fibers are going to bring pain up to your brain very, very quickly. If I do this, all of a sudden, boom, pain comes up right away. Okay? Now, what winds up happening, you have in the back of your spinal column a what's called the spinal gate that's based on different pain receptors that are there. And I can do this, and I ouch, ouch, ouch. But then after a while, what's going to happen is that I already identified what this is. I know it. If I'm not going to do anything about it, too bad, Steve. Because what's going to happen is that that gate is going to slowly close because I know what it is, and all it's going to do is give me just slow nagging pain. Those of you who have chronic pain in your neck or your back, it's always there. Okay, it's always there, but your body says, oh, we won't perceive it as being really painful because then I won't be able to do anything anymore. So it just makes it this dull, aching pain in the background. Unless you, pay attention to it, and then it, boom, comes up again. Here's another question I didn't talk about. Now, I put these two up on here because some of the questions some of you got wrong on the test were questions I didn't talk about, were right out of the chapters. And my guess is some of you didn't read the chapters. What you did was just focus on the class notes, which is fine, but you got to read this stuff as well. Strange perceptual experiences occur in the Ames room because of what? Now, some of you read the chapter already may know this. Because if our ordinary assumptions about the shape of the room are violated, observers have prior knowledge of the experiment and expect bizarre experiences. Neither size nor shape constants are operating. And then the fourth one was of the autokinetic effect, because of the autokinetic effect. Weird stuff. The Ames room is like a fun room over at Six Flags, where everything is distorted in it. Okay? So make your guesses. Make your guesses. Strange perceptual experiences occur in the Ames room because of what? Now this one I think would be hard through the process of elimination like I did in the last one to figure out what the answer is. But all right, so everybody make a good guess. This is your reward for those of you who read the chapter already. Just guess. Ready? 1, 2, 3. It's like a game show. Our order assumptions about the shape of the room are violated. That's a good guess. This is the Ames room. Now, when we look at the Ames room, this has to do with perceptual habits. We assume, when you look at this room, we assume it's a rectangle or a square. Because when we look at rooms, all rooms are what? Flat floors, right? Ceilings are about 8 feet, that's there. And what happens is that there are right angles in rooms. We automatically think all rooms are that way. Well, the Ames room is not that way. It's a trapezoidal room. So what you see here is that this part of the room is way back there, and this part is closer. Okay? This part of the room is higher, this part of the room is lower. That's there. Now, this is obvious in this picture, right? But if this woman walks in from the door that's over here, you look at her, and she walks across, and before your very eyes, she gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Smaller and smaller and smaller. Then she comes back. This part of the room is also down like this. So you can take a ball, put it here, and also the ball goes and rolls down. But when you look at the room like this, your brain automatically assumes that the room is a rectangle, flat, and so what happens, all these illusions occur in the room that's there, based on it violating your ordinary assumptions about the world. Because we also perceive based on what? Assumptions in the world. We make assumptions about what's going on in the world.